Located in the western Lake District of Cumbria, Muncaster Castle occupies a picturesque position approximately 1 mile east of the coastal town of Ravenglass. Perched on a raised elevation, the castle boasts captivating views of the River Esk and is encompassed by breathtaking plantations. It is further complemented by the awe-inspiring mountain vistas on either side, making it a truly remarkable landmark. Today, Muncaster Castle serves as a vibrant living museum that exhibits the rich heritage of the Pennington family. Over the course of centuries, the family has amassed a remarkable collection of manuscripts, artwork, and memorabilia, some of which are publicly showcased. Visitors can, nay, must embark on guided tours if they wish to dive deeper into the captivating histories of both the castle and its meticulously maintained gardens. Notably, I had a difficult time uncovering information to make a worthy timeline devoid of significant gaps, as it seems much of the history is kept under lock and key, carefully and craftily distributed to the public. One could argue this is because history is used as a draw to bring in museum profits, which then go toward maintaining the historic site. And to an extent, that is true. Yet, I suspect there's an active cover-up in play. The history of Muncaster Castle, or Mulcaster as it was originally known, is deeply intertwined with the ancestral lineage of the Pennington family, spanning nearly 1,000 years. For over 4 centuries, the castle and its prosperous estate have been held by the Pennington Knights, and to this day, they remain in the possession of descendants of the last Lord Muncaster. For me, the most intriguing aspect of Muncaster was not so much the castle itself but its owners. We're going to delve into the timeline of Muncaster Castle and its almost 1,000-year-long past to see what we can find. But before I get into what I think, let's begin with the official record.
The castle, nestled in Cumbria, believed to be standing on Roman remains, is a key part of the region's history. Whilst the Pennington family have recorded evidence of this historic house as being their home since 1208 when lands were granted to Alan de Pennington, some records go back further suggesting that the family have been here since at least 1026. The castle was built in the later 13th century and enlarged in the 14th when a pele tower was erected on Roman foundations, which would date back to 79 AD, part of its fabric being incorporated in the southwest tower. A coin from the time of Emperor Theodosius, AD 380, has been found, and there is also a victor ring. It was the 5th Baronet, created 1st Baron Muncaster, who carried out far-reaching renovations inside and out, including planting most of the large hardwood trees and founding the library, and his great-nephew Gamel Augustus, 4th Lord Muncaster, who shortly before his death in 1862 instructed Anthony Salvin, whose main interest was military architecture and who was very fashionable, to update the house. Salvin covered the courtyard, built by 1st Lord Muncaster, converting it into the present drawing room, with its much-admired barrel ceiling, which was the work of 2 Italian plasterers. It was redecorated in 1958 by Lady Pennington Ramsden. The 5th and last Lord Muncaster, Gamel's brother, died in 1917 and the Muncaster estate passed to his mother's family, the Ramsdens, who carried out extensive works in the gardens and brought many of their possessions, including the Ramsden family portraits, to Muncaster. In those days the estate still extended to 23,000 acres.
As we just heard, the castle and lord lineage origins officially date back to 1208, possibly 1026. However, I failed to unearth any records of Muncaster or the Pennington family going back to 1026 to confirm the claim, as this version of history seemed to begin with the Domesday Book. 1066, 12th century, castle and lord lineage origins. The Pennington family. The origins of Muncaster Castle can be traced back to Gamel de Pennington, a historical figure believed to be the ancestor of all the Penningtons living today. According to a few third-party sources I found, the Domesday Book supposedly mentions 4 men named Gamal who held lands, and it is said that one of them moved to the parish of Pennington after his marriage and adopted the surname Pennington. While the name of Gamel's wife is unconfirmed, historians suggest that she may have been a daughter of the House of Percy, as their family coats of arms bore a striking resemblance. In fact, in some family trees, Gamel and his descendants are even referred to as Pennington de Percy. If true, this helps explain the lofty social status of the Pennington name seen in the centuries to come. The Muncaster estate. The name Pennington is also mentioned in the Domesday Book. The estate, comprising around 120 acres of land, was part of the manor of Hogun, which was held by Earl Tostig and likely existed for several centuries. In 1127, Pennington became part of the grant given to Furness Abbey by the monks for the foundation of their abbey. The family came to hold the land by knight's service and rent, eventually adopting the name of the manor. Gamel, at some point, acquired or owned property near Eskmeal, an ancient Roman camp located near present-day Ravenglass, and moved his family there. The original name of the property was Mulcaster, or Mulcaster, derived from the Celtic words mul/mule/meal, meaning hill, and caster/castre, meaning fortification. During this time, there was no known manor house, but it is believed that the family had a manor house in Beckside, as Gamel's name appears on the ancient tympanum of Beckside. Gamel is also mentioned as having granted the church of Mulcaster to Conishead Priory around 1160. The Pennington-Muncaster family relation. Gamel and his wife had at least 2 sons, Benedict and Meldred, with some sources mentioning a possible third son, Ranulf. As the eldest male, Benedict became the heir to Mulcaster after Gamel's passing. The descendants of Sir Benedict de Pennington, Knight, also raise questions. Some sources state that he and his wife, Agnes, had 2 sons, Alan and Alexander, while others mention a third son named David. Legend has it that the Mulcaster surname was established by David, who became known as David de Mulcaster and passed the name on to his children. By the early 1200s, David also owned significant property in the area, adding weight to a probable connection between him and Benedict. It is also worth noting that current records of both the Mulcaster and Muncaster genealogical lines include members of the Pennington family, and in 2015, a DNA link was reportedly discovered connecting these 2 families. Despite the uncertainty surrounding the surname origin and the relationship between the Mulcasters and Penningtons, it is evident that the 2 families shared both close ties and occasional conflicts. Both families served as knights, and historical records depict commercial activities and tensions between them throughout subsequent decades. Furthermore, several lords Mulcaster and Pennington held the position of sheriff at various periods. In 1202, Sir Alan de Pennington, the first knight, the son of Benedict, granted around 30 acres of land in Pennington to Hugh, son of Edward. Finally, 1208, the earliest recorded, or should I say advertised, evidence of the Pennington family's ownership of the castle. It states that Alan de Pennington, grandson of Benedict, was granted the lands. Interestingly, the same year marked the passing of his father, Sir Alan de Pennington, the first knight. It is noted that he received by fine at Carlisle the tenement of Mulcaster from Richard de Lucy, the Lord Paramount to Muncaster Township, for 1/12 knight's fee and his foreign service. This aligns with other records indicating that Richard de Lucy received a charter from King John of England, granting him the right to establish a market and fair at Ravenglass, which fell within the boundaries of Mulcaster Township. Later that year, Richard de Lucy confirmed Alan Pennington as men's lord, along with his tenants, granting them all the land and fee of Ravenglass, to hold of him and his heirs, with estovers to make fish garths in the River Esk. Well, okay. That brings us to the quote, later, end quote, 13th century. The point in the official timeline when the castle is said to have been built. So let's go find the record to see what type of nonsense they want us to accept as the story of its construction. Although, I don't know about you, I wasn't content with accepting that some 80 years or more passed with nothing notable occurring, so I also went digging around to see what I could find. And, wouldn't you know it? I found more family feudal drama. The 13th century. In 1242, we see a Pennington-Mulcaster estate deal. Alan died without male heirs, and his only daughter, Alice, married the Baron of Kinderton, assuming the surname de Venables and relocating to Cheshire. As a result, Muncaster should have passed to Alan's brother, Thomas de Pennington, which many records suggest was the case. However, there is a famous account that claims William Pennington, noted as the grandson of Benedict, acquired the castle and established his family seat at Muncaster during this period. William is also credited with constructing the original hall. Unfortunately for the narrative, I went in search of this William. Nearly every article I found had this seemingly important tidbit noted in the timeline, yet none had a source referenced or evidence noted. I felt it should. And while early Pennington genealogy records are incomplete, records only grow in both quantity and detail post-Doomsday Book. Yet, no direct descendant named William is found in Gamel's lineage until 1275. This William is listed as the grandson of Thomas, brother of Alan de Pennington of Pennington Hall, making him the great-great-grandson of Benedict. There is an earlier William, who was the grandson of Alan and great-grandson of Benedict, but he became the Baron of Kinderton and inherited that title. Honestly, the whole thing is a big hot mess, and the fact that names were so frequently reused throughout the generations does not make this puzzle any easier. The disparity in dates led some historians to propose that the William Pennington said to have inherited Muncaster at this time was actually a direct descendant of David de Muncaster, which is what I eventually subscribed to as my research progressed. Supportive evidence for this theory can be found in publications from the Cumberland and Westmoreland Antiquarian and Archaeological Society, which mention the addition of 14,000 acres to the mountain territory of Furness Abbey, encompassing Upper Eskdale. Part of this land became Pennington property through a deal with David de Muncaster, likely the second David, grandson of the first, who had received property from the abbey. Thomas de Pennington passed away in 1248, leaving the castle to his son and heir, Alan II. Agnes, Thomas's widow, reached an agreement with the abbot of Furness regarding the guardianship of the heir, Alan, and subsequently married Thomas de Greystoke. Thomas and Agnes de Pennington also owned land in Birtwistle in Hapton, which Alan inherited. In 1250, there was a dispute over the custody of Alan, contested between Thomas de Moulton and John de Lungvilers, along with Agnes and John's daughter. By 1269, it seems that Alan had been legally recognized as the rightful heir and had taken possession of the land. He is mentioned as a defendant in a local legal matter. In 1278, an intriguing legal dispute unfolded involving Sir Alan de Pennington, likely Alan II, son of Thomas, and, wait for it, Sir Robert de Muncaster. Sir Alan claimed that he had entered into a binding agreement with Sir Robert, wherein Sir Robert was obligated to transfer the esteemed manor at Jiffin to Sir Alan. This transfer, accompanied by a significant charter from Alan's ancestor Benedict de Pennington, would establish Alan's rightful ownership of the property. In return, Sir Alan pledged to enfeoff, or give right in land to, one of Sir Robert's sons with 10 marks of land in Jiffin, a substantial value amounting to approximately £65, which, to my calculations is equivalent to £55,643 in 2023 money. Furthermore, Alan promised to grant all of his lands in Copeland to Robert for the duration of his lifetime. Notably, the agreement also stipulated a matrimonial union between Alan's son and heir, William, and Alice, the daughter of Benedict Muncaster. Given the timeline, Alice was likely none other than Robert the Legendary's own granddaughter. This further emphasized the intricate and complex dynamics between the Pennington and Muncaster families. Moving forward to the year 1292, a fresh wave of conflicts emerged, this time involving Alan de Pennington, the abbot of Furness, and the prior of Conus Head. The abbot, acting in his authoritative capacity as the head of the wapentake, which served as an administrative division in Furness, proceeded to seize property at Pennington. This action was taken as a form of distraint, intended to secure payment for a servant and a witness man. Alan vehemently contested the legality of this seizure, but unfortunately, he was non-suited, meaning his legal arguments did not succeed. Indeed, these disputes and the resulting legal outcomes add another layer of intrigue to the ongoing narrative surrounding the Pennington family and their interactions with the abbot of Furness and the prior of Conus Head. This brings us to the 14th century. And the only construction story we got was the name of someone who may not have existed yet. I think that's enough of that side of the story for now. It is clear that history is being hidden as well as fabricated, perhaps in more ways than one, as certain types of details seem inconsistent to me. You can visit my website for the complete timeline to see all the details I unearthed before my research time started yielding diminishing returns. Notably, the lineage is well documented by the 14th century, yet there are enough holes in the story to maintain the sense that we're not being told everything. There were more marriage agreements and legal disputes over the estate up until the 16th century, when John Pennington filed some type of legal papers to ensure the Muncaster estate would remain as a Pennington possession. And in 1577, the name of the castle is noted on a church register as Muncaster, with historians suggesting the act was a deliberate attempt to purge to the region of the Muncaster name. Yet, the more I dug into things, I felt as though I started to see the forest through the trees. By the 13th century, the narrative tells us that knighthood closed its once open casting call in order to keep the position reserved for those of more elite status. Personally, I think that's a cover-up for the cult that it is. Is it possible the medieval Pennington knights who held Muncaster played a key part in assisting with re-establishing society after a reset? Or is the medieval lineage a fabrication? I suppose that requires a deeper dive into what exactly the Doomsday or Doomsday Book really is. But, like everything, I don't know. It seems that those in the lineage circa the Tudor era were born into the club, and continued to play important roles in controlling the people, lands, money, and laws. I had given up on caring by the time the men reached baronet and baron status, but I'm sure there are some shady deals to uncover. I did, however, look into the modern-day owners of the castle, which I'll talk about a little later. For now, we have a few other points of interest from the official narrative to cover. Starting with the Roman fort foundations of the Pele Tower. The remains of the bathhouse at Ravenglass Roman fort, situated just outside the northeast corner of the fort, established in AD 130, are among the tallest Roman structures surviving in northern Britain, with the walls standing almost 4 meters high. The narrative says that domestic use of the building in the Middle Ages led to the substantial preservation of the site. The site lay in Muncaster Castle Park in the post-medieval period, and was described as the ancient dwelling place of the Penningtons by John Denton in 1610. Excavations in the late 19th century and survey work in the 1980s indicated that the bathhouse was a substantial structure, extending beyond the present field boundary, as well as to either side of the existing structures. At least 2 rooms contained underfloor hypocausts, an ancient heating system said to be used in Britain from circa 400 to 1900. The walls are of regularly coursed sandstone bonded with mortar and rendered internally with pink cement. One of the doorways has a worn threshold and a broad groove to receive a timber doorframe. The bathhouse was first considered to be Roman in 1876, and this was confirmed by excavation in 1881 when it was thought to be a villa. These excavations demonstrated that the building had originally extended a considerable distance eastwards. Coins and pottery from the site date from the 2nd to the 4th century AD. The building seems to have been recognized as a bathhouse in about 1919. A detailed survey and fabric analysis was carried out in May 1983 on behalf of the Department of the Environment, prior to its consolidation and placement under guardianship. Clearly, they found something of interest worth guarding. It is unchanged since the analysis of 1883, except that tree cover has been removed from its immediate vicinity, and the remains have been fenced. I was really curious to see the coin from AD 380, around the time of Emperor Theodosius, and the Victor ring. Unfortunately, I found diddly squat regarding the coin. Even Perplexity AI said there was no mention of such in the search results. There was a record of the Victor ring being found on Muncaster ground, supposedly published in the academic journal Britannia. I didn't pay to confirm that, but this find did uncover another interesting artifact, a fragment of a red sandstone slab, said to be related to Hadrian's Wall. It was found during an excavation circa 1800 in a deposit of rubble on the grounds of Muncaster Castle. It was not associated with any building and was evidently brought to the castle as building material from elsewhere in the estate. In view of its text, it came from the Roman fort. It remains at the castle, where Peter Frost Pennington made it available. The letter sequences are incomplete but sufficient enough for some historians to believe the inscription to be a dedication to the gods and goddesses according to the interpretation of the Oracle of Clarion Apollo. Apparently, 11 such dedications were prompted by Marcus Aurelius's response to the outbreak of the Antonine Plague in circa AD 165. While I never found confirmation, some say the Pele Tower was likely built following the siege of Carlisle in 1315, perhaps due to Scottish raids into Cumbria led by Robert Bruce in 1316 and 1322, meant to be used as a refuge in times of invasion. Going back to the castle's official timeline, nothing of note happened for over 500 years, apparently. We've been given enough clues to know the timeline is fabricated somehow, and we'll just consider this more evidence. However, there was an interesting tale noted in the Pennington family's history page on the Muncaster website regarding Henry VI, and what is known today as the Luck of Muncaster. Legend has it that King Henry VI sought refuge at nearby Urton Hall but was turned away while evading capture during the War of the Roses. What should be authoritative sources provide differing accounts, with some suggesting that this event took place in 1461. Following the Battle of Towton, while others claim it occurred in 1464, subsequent to the Battle of Hexham. Regardless, per the folklore, the beleaguered monarch traversed the fell and found himself wandering near Muncaster, approximately a mile away from the castle. It was here that Sir John Pennington chanced upon the lost king. Sir John and his wife extended their hospitality to Henry, providing him with sustenance and shelter for 9 days. As a token of his gratitude, the king presented Sir John with an exquisite Venetian glass drinking bowl, adorned with intricate craftsmanship. Alongside the gift, he uttered a prayer for the prosperity of the Pennington family, prophesying that as long as the bowl remained intact, the Penningtons would continue to reside at Muncaster. This legendary bowl has since earned the moniker Luck of Muncaster and has become a treasured artifact, concealed within the castle's confines, with only a select few privy to its whereabouts. In addition, a captivating painting depicting King Henry kneeling before an altar, the fabled bowl held firmly in his right hand, adorns the very bedroom that the monarch occupied during his stay at Muncaster. Perhaps it's just me, but the story seems a bit far-fetched, especially when you try to uncover more details about it, which I wouldn't recommend you waste your time doing. From a disgraced, mountain-climbing monarch to a prized possession of intrigue kept hidden, there is only Swiss cheese to uncover here. Though, I suppose this would be a good time to tell you that also nestled within the confines of Muncaster Castle resides an ancient tome, affectionately known as the Book of Spells. Cherished by the Pennington family, this extraordinary book stands as one of the castle's oldest and most intriguing treasures. Within its pages lie a collection of peculiar remedies intended to alleviate various ailments, and the margins are said to hold a recipe for learning secrets. I'll let you make of that what you will. Continuing on our journey to learn about the castle's construction, the manor house was said to have been remodeled for comfort during the Tudor period, as the need for fortification was dispelled. Supposedly several generations of Penningtons from 1485 to 1600 expanded on the hall and tower, eventually turning it into a castle. The original layout of Muncaster Castle is virtually unknown, as architectural records predating the 16th century are largely unavailable. The Penningtons married well in the 17th and 18th centuries, and circa 1780, a vacancy in the Irish peerage presented an opportunity for John Pennington, the 5th Baronet of Muncaster, to ascend as the 1st Baron Muncaster. Embracing his new title, Lord Muncaster is credited with taking on a comprehensive renovation project that transformed the Gothic fortress of Muncaster Castle into an exquisite venue for stylish entertainment. His efforts supposedly encompassed both the interior and exterior of the castle, and he is said to have established the remarkable octagonal library and adorned the castle with elegant sash windows. In addition, he also is noted to have diligently planted numerous hardwood trees and commissioned the construction of an orangery. Furthermore, it is said that he raised the chapel's tower, located a mile northeast of the castle, as a commemorative tribute to the site where his ancestors discovered the wandering King Henry VI. Then, in 1826, the Pennington family records show numerous proposals for loans on Muncaster Castle estate. The proposed total mortgage requested was at least £185,000, which by my calculations, is equivalent to roughly £28,173,582, or $35,070,475 today. I mean, holy crap. The mortgage is noted as paid off in 1853, which brings us up to speed on our timeline. Enter the fashionable Anthony Salvin. I think this might be our biggest clue yet. Look at this guy. Per Wikipedia, he was an English architect who gained a reputation as an expert on medieval buildings and applied this expertise to his new buildings and his restorations. He restored castles and country houses, and built a number of new houses and churches. His story begins with a prestigious boarding school and has him employed by age 22. The remaining 60 years of his life are credited to designing, remodeling, and building numerous structures. The list of his architectural achievements includes restoring or constructing 65 castles and country houses, not to mention the lists of church alterations and miscellaneous works. When Anthony was around 60 years old, his wife, who was also his cousin, died, and he designed a new house for himself. 3 years later, he was awarded the Royal Gold Medal of the Royal Institute of British Architects, and in 1879, 2 years before his death, he retired from formal practice. His estate was valued at over £78,000, which is £9,048,878, or $11,755,307 in 2023 value. Regarding his remodeling of Muncaster, Anthony was said to be hired by the 4th Lord Muncaster, Gamel Augustus Pennington, the second Gamel of the bloodline following centuries of Allens, Josephs, Johns, and Williams, almost as if the history writers were bored and employed a callback. Anyway, Salvin left the medieval Pele Tower unaltered, and a new tower was constructed on the northwest side to reflect it and create a symmetrical facade for the castle. Salvin also added battlements and both transomed and mullioned windows and remodeled the Georgian house. Some of the more notable rooms he remodeled include the library, with a ribbed ceiling and handsome brass railing along the gallery, the drawing room, a converted courtyard with barrel ceiling, and the former Ballard Room, featuring an oblong skylight. As a result, most of what you can visit today is a Victorian mansion. Half a century after Salvin's remodel, the last Lord Muncaster died sans heir, and the estate reverted to the closest relative on his mother's side, Sir John Fresheville Ramsden, 6th Baronet. However, there was a condition attached. Sir John's second son, Geoffrey, had to change his name to Pennington. By 1925, the 7th Baronet assumed the Pennington Ramsden surname but later reverted to his original surname in 1958. Sir John engaged in discussions regarding potential modifications to the castle, but ultimately no changes were implemented. While his family did not permanently reside at the castle, they brought various Ramsden family possessions, including ancestral portraits. As we were told, during this period, the estate encompassed an impressive 23,000 acres. Sir John actively sponsored expeditions led by renowned plant hunters such as George Forrest and Frank Kingdon Ward. Both are curious characters in their own right, worthy of investigating perhaps at another time. It is said that many of the original plant discoveries made by these explorers still grace the gardens of Muncaster today, which, according to the narrative, serve as a testament to their legacy and the conservation efforts to preserve endangered species. Sir John is credited with significant efforts in the development of the gardens. As an example, he introduced bolstrode rhododendron seedlings after World War I and began breeding hybrid varieties. Assisted by John Gill Millay, he continuously enhanced the beauty of the gardens until his passing in 1958. Notably, I also found records in the Cumbria archive indicating that Queen Mary visited the castle in 1934, presumably to discuss matters with Sir John concerning the Muncaster estate. These records include documents related to compensation agreements, the surrender of premises, royalties, and interests in Cumberland, as well as sales particulars, draft conveyances, and enfranchisement papers from around the same period. When Sir John passed, his wife, Lady Pennington Ramsden, redecorated the castle. It seems this was done in preparation for the former residence becoming a tourist attraction, as Muncaster opened regularly to the public a decade later. At the time, it featured a bird garden and a mini zoo. Well, we've covered our history and made it to modern-day Muncaster, with its prestigious mudblood, legally obligated hyphenated surname owners, seemingly still prospering from their lucky charm bowl. The castle is said to have remained unoccupied from the time the Ramsden family inherited it in 1917, until 1985, when Phillida Gordon Duff Pennington and her husband, Patrick Gordon Duff Pennington, inherited the castle and moved in with their children. The castle was said to be losing £50,000 a year by this time, and Phillida and Patrick worked hard over the next 30 years to transform what they described as a crumbling relic into a welcoming place for tourism and events, flogging most of the original estate to stay afloat. Yet, what I don't fully understand is how a castle, built up for centuries, relatively recently remodeled by the infamous Anthony Salvin with subsequent maintenance for 40 years, becomes a crumbling relic in less than a generation. And how did such an asset-rich estate become a financial drain of expenses seemingly overnight? But hey, what do I know, right? By the 1990s, Phillida and Patrick's daughter, Iona Frost Pennington, together with her husband, Peter, assume responsibility for managing the estate. In the later years of the decade, a significant project known as Third Millennium Muncaster takes place, involving the re-roofing of Muncaster and the revitalization of the zoo and bird gardens. By this time, the estate begins to generate a modest surplus, which is reinvested for its betterment. In 2019, Ewan Frost Pennington, Iona's son, now the operations director at Muncaster, oversees the installation of a ground source heat pump, providing low-carbon energy to regulate humidity and temperature fluctuations within the castle. In October 2021, Muncaster became one of the 142 recipients of the government's £35 million Culture Recovery Fund, which helps support its ongoing preservation and restoration efforts. In pursuit of carbon neutrality, south-facing solar panels are installed on the roof of the Meadowvale Maze attraction, providing electricity for the castle's operations. In May 2023, Ewan Frost Pennington officially took on the role of the castle's custodian, a term he prefers over heir. As a highly ambitious former environmental engineer, he envisions transforming Muncaster into a zero-carbon castle within the next decade. And while all of this sounds lovely, there is that pesky issue we have with climate propaganda that has me more than a little suspicious about it all. As it were, a handful of media outlets were all too eager to provide us with some mini meet-and-greet interviews with the Napo baby himself. They all contain mockable moments as well as truth drops for those with the eyes to see and ears to hear them, but there was one video, in particular, I felt worth sharing with you here.
Hi everybody, this is Alan Fine and I'm here with Ewan Frost Pennington. And he is here representing the Muncaster Castle and Pennington hotels in Great Britain. Now, I don't know if you know about them, but you will at the end of this segment on Insider Travel Report. Ewan, thank you for talking to us.
Yeah, delighted to. So
your name is the name of the product. So explain, let's go back in history. We're in a time machine. Where did this all begin?
So it begins 1208 when...
Is that what PM or AM? Or what?
No, 12,
the year.
824 years ago,
Wow.
Which is when Gamel de Pennington, my ancestor, actually built the Peel Tower to defend against the Scots. So we're near the border of Scotland and England.
Right.
And so very much it was built as a defensive structure so that if the Scots, or when the Scots, because it happened regularly, came down and raided, people could run away and hide in the castle, so Muncaster Castle, and so that was originated by my one of my ancestors.
Wow.
And then our family has lived there continuously since then, many generations. It's never been bought or sold, and we now have this. For one of my lines is just consistent. Like we know who lived there, what they were doing, and ironically, I'm 3/4 Scottish, so the Scots finally took over, but through marriage rather than
peacefully.
Yeah, rather than warfare.
Yeah.
So yeah, my dad's Scottish and my mum's half Scottish too. So one of my grandfather's Scottish. So
Wow.
but essentially the family is then over the subsequent 800 years. It's just like, oh, let's have a conservatory, but instead of a conservatory, it's like let's have another tower, and so it's then just been built out like from then, and now we have have 80 chimney pots. I've never actually counted the rooms. I don't actually know the exact number of rooms, but I live there. I've just moved back there from America. So I've been living in San Francisco for the last 3 years. And then in June, kind of made the decision to go back and help my parents retire because I'm going to be taking over in the long term. It's like either I get my green card or I go back and take over a historic castle. So I've chosen the latter, but I still want to bring some of that American magic back to the UK. And that's why I'm excited we're launching this new product that is a kind of heritage package to welcome Americans to the depth of culture and history that we have associated with the castle.
Wow. So this is the genuine article. And so what exactly are you offering? Because it was all private home, and now what are the products?
Yeah. So what my parents have done is the classic aristocratic story of hit hard times, sold off large bits of the land and the assets that make money. So about 50 years ago, my family started to turn to tourism, but until now, they're very much focused on the British tourist market, so the day visitor, and we do have quite a lot of tourists that come. But what I'm excited about is the fact that they only come between 12 and 4 p.m. To visit
locally. They drive over.
They drive over, and it's kind of been a bit of a secret for the international market. But basically, the castle, these amazing staterooms, sit there empty for 90% of the 80% of the year, and it means that in the evenings we can have fantastic dinners. The grand dining room there's nothing like it. We had a dinner there last Saturday. There's a video. We went to the library afterwards, and you can have whiskey, port, and these rooms are special. It's exactly what my aristocratic.
These ceilings are like miles high.
I mean, exactly. And I mean, it's also just the intricate details. This is like
even on the ceiling.
On the ceiling, yeah. Like the library, for example, we painted the constellation of the stars in 1208 when the Penningtons first arrived at Muncaster. So you've got as it was then, and it's done in a really nice way. But you can just tell these rooms, my ancestors have done a fantastic job of like making them. They're perfect for like a group of 25 people to host, and it's exactly what my ancestors would have been doing. They would have been hosting groups from like a politics perspective. We've hosted kings there before. King Henry VI is of particular note. He stayed there for multiple weeks on the runaway from a big battle. So we've got a big depth of history. I can't give away too much. I need you to come here and have the historic tour by one of the family members.
But it's a part of this area is this castle. Plus you also have a hotel nearby and other things. Let's talk about what exactly the guests can come and do.
Yeah. So we are a little bit off the beaten track. So we are a bit hidden. This is why lots of people haven't necessarily
not necessarily a bad thing.
Exactly. So the Lake District is a kind of tourist mecca. 4 million people go there every year. Lots of Brits. But where we are, you have to go through the mountain. So you do an hour drive from the main touristy hub to get to us. But that in itself is spectacular views. And once you're there, we want people to stay and really enjoy it. So have like a 2-day experience, make that hour journey an hour back, like really worthwhile. And so that means what we're offering is for people to come, potentially we incorporate, there's a miniature steam railway that goes 11 miles up the valley, very picturesque, so you can maybe catch that to get to us. We've got 1,000 acres of land where we can do 4x4 tours, other activities that we're currently exploring. Then potentially we have a flying team of 25 birds. So this isn't just falconry, this is so much more. We've got vultures, we've got a bald eagle, we've got the lot.
But you mentioned that no one's staying at the castle yet. And you're planning for that. So let's talk about that. And let's also talk about the hotel, please.
Yeah. Okay. So I currently live in the castle, as do my parents. The part of the castle that I've moved into is quite honestly too good for me. It's wooden, innate paneling, the ceiling's hand painted, and I want to redecorate. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and there's another part of the castle that I'm going to move into, but that frees up this part that is really nice, and the staterooms in the oldest part to be made into really top-notch accommodation, kind of luxury accommodation.
So stay tuned for that.
So that's not going to be until 2024. But what my mum has done, we bought another historic property nearby, which has 16 rooms. It's luxury. It's still 500 years old. It still has it, and so we can do. That's a 10-minute drive from where we are. It's also accessible to one of the big lakes, Lake Westwater.
So what's the name of this place that there's 16 rooms?
So that's called Cellar Park Hotel. So Cellar Park Country House Hotel.
How's that spelled?
Cellar, Sella, and then Park. And it really is a pretty special place. Like the ideal for us is for you to come for at least 1, if not 2 nights, because to actually fully appreciate the space, we think you need that amount of time, and it allows us to give you the depth of experience. And
but you can stay longer.
You can stay longer, of course. The longer the better. But we think to get the optimal is at least 2 nights. Then you can really get to know the place, and we can get to know you as the family. Because I think the unique selling point for us is that it is the family that would be hosting, like myself, my dad, my mom, or one of my siblings potentially.
And you would be hosting breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can do the whole shabam and the like. So yeah.
And so staying there, what would the amenities be like?
So it's a 4-star hotel. It's a historic heritage property, so thick walls. But in terms of amenities, we don't have a pool or anything like that. But that's just because of the heritage nature of it. Is I think what makes it different. There's access to grand gardens and the like.
So in the neighborhood, what is there? What's in the region? What is there? If you were staying for, let's say you stayed for a week, where would you be going?
Yeah, so it is a perfect point to go and reach the lakes. So the lakes, hiking. Scarfell Pike is the highest mountain. That's about a 15-minute drive. So it's the highest mountain in England. 15-minute drive. There's lakes. There's the sea. Large beaches. We've got a lot going on.
So to wrap up, what I really want to, the travel advisors are now salivating. I hope you're going, wow, this is different. I got clients that want different. This is that. How do they get involved with you? How can they get in touch and how can they learn more?
So reach out to me. Very much on the front line as a family member, but Ewan at muncaster.co.uk.
So let's spell you.
So Ewan, EWAN,
Right.
and then at Muncaster, MUNCASTER.co.uk. That's the best way to reach me, and I'd love to talk to anyone that's interested in this kind of product.
Well, there you have it. Anyone interested in staying at or touring the castle and learning the history of the Pennington family is welcome to pay for that product. I'm not too sure what to make of it all, short of the estate acting all the while as some type of money laundering facility for the monarchy or something to that effect, with the heirs of Muncaster playing as willing participants in one way or another. And, as I noted, I've got my eye on this guy. He's only just now breaking out onto the world stage, and I get the sense that he will be a significant character in the upcoming act of the play we're watching. Beyond that, there are two other tales commonly parroted in articles about Muncaster Castle, which I didn't delve too deep into but are worth mentioning. The first is that of Tom Skelton, aka Tom Fool, noted as the final jester of Muncaster following his death in 1600, as the tradition of appointing jesters waned with the restoration of Charles II to the throne. Yet, Tom's significance as a retainer to the Pennington family is evident from the fact they had two portraits commissioned in his honor, which visitors can view during a tour of the castle. In a recent tribute to the jester, the Pennington family has revived the practice of appointing an official fool of Muncaster each year at the Festival of Fools. And while I could see the family having a fondness for those in their employ, this is all rather curious given that Tom was known for his mischievous nature, and his pranks were often far from amusing. Legend has it that he would sit on the cannon bank beneath a chestnut tree, now known as Tom Fool's Tree, and lead lost travelers towards quicksand if he took a dislike to them. He is also said to have killed a carpenter who was having an affair with Sir Alan Pennington's daughter. Many believe that even after his death, his spirit continues to linger in that area, and occasional incidents at the castle reflect his malevolent attributes. On that note, the other common tale, typical with most castles, is about ghosts. Muncaster Castle is renowned as one of the most haunted castles in the UK. In addition to Tom's antics, visitors often recount witnessing disappearing figures, hearing inexplicable noises, and feeling an overwhelming sense of an unsettling presence enveloping them, with the most eerie experiences reported in the tapestry room. The castle is also said to be haunted by the White Lady, the lingering spirit of a former housekeeper, a young Margaret Pennington, who was said to have died of screaming fits, as well as the souls of numerous others believed to have met their demise there. Again, these tales are commonly repeated, so material is readily available if they tickle your fancy. As for my speculations, this is where I leave you. For more on Muncaster Castle and the Pennington family, visit my website. There, you can read my entire timeline for more details not covered in this video and check out all my sources to read through them for yourself. Regardless of its validity, there are strings of reality holding this story together that can be worth identifying, and the labyrinth you must course to hunt for details makes for an entertaining trip through the rabbit hole. Markedly, there is much more lore to explore. So, what do you think about all of this? Have you visited Muncaster? Are you on a branch of the Pennington or Mulcaster family trees? Leave a note in the comments section, I'd love to read your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Until next time, Pseudo says, stay curious and question everything.